folks, and welcome to the third installment in the Spotlight series, a series where we take the spotlight and we put it on you, on players from around the world. We take a look at some of their games, we get to hear what they have to say about the game, we get to know them a little bit better, and we grow the community. This episode is going to focus on AyRoss.NPO. He is a top 10 player, as you will be able to see from his spiffy card back, but not only is he a member of NPO, he is the president. He is the founder of it. Now, you may notice that this spotlight is longer than the other two spotlights, and that's because we had a natural and organic conversation while he was live streaming on Twitch. That's right, you can find him on Twitch, AyRoss.NPO. You can find him there. He streams often and streams long. I think he's gone up to 16 hours at one point. Wouldn't count on him doing that all the time, but he has done it in the past. High-level gameplay, doesn't stick with one particular deck. You're going to see a nice variety, and you're going to see some really great games. I recommend you check it out. We had a great conversation spanning the interview questions and much, much more, but I will let him tell you about that in his own words. Without further ado, I present to you AyRoss.NPO. Enjoy.
Welcome, friend.
We will seize our own fate.
I stand behind my word.
Your story has finished.
My name AyRoss. It's a combination of my first and my last name. Basically, it comes from I used to call my buddy David, like his last name was Howe. I used to call him Dio, and he called me AyRoss, and that was like my nickname through high school. So I was like, oh well, fucking AyRoss fits, and it's nice and short and sweet, and it's to the point. So it's actually been my name for pretty much every gaming thing ever, actually, since high school. I'm 27, so I mean, I guess not really too long, but it's stuck, and it fucking, I don't know, it's short and cute, and it's always available. So yeah, that's like my go-to thing. And NPO kind of came from back in the day when I wanted to join AZZ, actually, believe it or not. This was a while ago. And they were either really slow with getting back to me on like whether or not I could fucking join the clan, or they were kind of like, just saw how, not to call him out or anything, but I kind of saw like how he was treating like some of his members, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to be a fucking part of this. Like, you know, he was kind of talking down to one of the guys and whatever, and I was like, you know what? It's like, I'm gonna make my own team, and basically we're gonna be the kind of people that don't use like super hardcore meta decks and stuff like that. So basically kind of show people that you can win without having to rely on stupid fucking like invade and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Yagram's Workshop, invade, fucking just meta cancer, really. I do use crabs every now and then, and just recently, about a couple months ago, got into using move. I do like move, but I don't like making traditional like smash you in the face move decks. Like usually they're like mid-range move decks, which are different, I guess. Obviously the mechanic is still there, but it is what it is. Anyway, the whole idea of NPO is to basically give back to the community in terms of cool decks and stuff like that. So basically any deck that you guys ever see me run, I give it away for free. Like, I don't care if you guys have my deck code. Because the code doesn't really matter to me. It's basically the player that makes the deck good. So I could give you guys, you know, the Singleton code, or, you know, any of my decks, really. It doesn't matter. You might not find the same success that I do. Like, I was at number 2 with this not last night, but the night before. I actually got 7 wins into 2 with this Singleton deck. And I don't know what Destroyer did or who he's paying off, but man, he is some far ahead at number 1. Like, it's gonna take quite a bit of pushing to get past number 2.
That was a mistake. I'll cripple you.
Oh no. Fucking Mushroom Tower. Anyway, that's the whole thing behind like the whole NPO thing. Anyway, so yeah, free source decks, non-meta, that kind of thing. The good stuff. Decks for the people, essentially. Well, this kind of sucks.
I do not fear death.
The forest is my cloak.
Close ranks. Let nothing through.
I will be triumphant!
Blood and faith.
The Night Mother will guide us. I will keep Sotasil's people alive.
My favorite card. So before I played this, the only Elder Scrolls game I really played, and don't hate me for this, but the only Elder Scrolls game I really played was Skyrim. Oh wow. And basically, in playing Skyrim, I was like a conjuration, like battle mage type deal. So that's kind of like why I mained mid BM for a while. I really like playing with Patronax and stuff like that. And I mean, they're actually quite strong. So that all kind of worked out for me in my favor, basically as far as the whole in-game aspect of it goes. I was very fortunate, I guess, to be able to play a deck that I like, a deck that is also strong, and something that kind of resonated with me as far as, from the console to the cards type deal. And I mean, in general, I think my favorite card is probably Alfiq. I think they could have did Alfiq a little better. I think they could do it like, if you have like a ward in your graveyard, consume the ward, or if you have a guard in the graveyard, consume the guard, and like it kind of summons a different Atronach that way. But I've always liked in card games like grave play and stuff like that, so like recalling creatures and all that kind of stuff. So that whole aspect of Alfiq is also kind of nice, like the whole consume and whatnot. Yeah, pretty much that's kind of how that whole thing, how the whole mid BM game started anyway. And why I like that deck so much. I actually don't play a whole lot of it anymore, just because I played so much of it. Like, I'll probably touch on the fact that I don't like to play the same deck too many games in a row. Except for Singleton, I guess it's a little bit different because it's kind of like a different experience every time you play it. But for the most part, I try not to spam a single deck too many games, even if I am winning. But I usually switch it up after a loss. But even if I'm winning, I do my best to switch it up and keep it fresh because I do get bored. But I did used to play mid BM like literally every single game forever. I played mid BM probably exclusively for probably about, I want to say like a year and a half or so. So yeah, I've played enough mid BM to fucking basically satisfy everybody in the entire community, I think. And I know the deck pretty much inside and out.
We'll see how they like someone who fights back.
I was told that maybe I should put in more spells, but I don't know if I really want to do that, just because I don't think that going 1-for-1 with spells really makes a whole lot of sense. You kind of want to you kind of want creatures, really. I don't know. Like I said, I only really made the deck this month, and I've only really been, like, tweaking it really this month, so I'm not too surprised. You know, obviously there are kinks, but the deck itself is actually quite good. You just get in some streaks of bad luck, that's all. I mean, Singleton is what it is. It's not exactly going to be the most consistent deck, right? Only being able to run one copy of every card. It's not like you can throw in, like, you know, 3 fucking Sun and Shadows and stuff like that, right? The cards that you really want to have multiples of, well, A, you can't, just because of the nature of the deck, and B, because they're uniques. Well, you can't win them all, I guess. I did just beat this guy, too. It has a bit of a struggle versus aggro. This is a deck I actually made yesterday. I don't like. It's good. The deck is good. This one here, it's probably gonna need some refinement over the next couple days or so. But it's basically my idea of what a 3-color move deck should be. So it would be pretty cool if I can actually get this to work for you guys here today. Because 3-color move deck has always eluded me. It's very elusive. It's very hard to do consistently, because 3 colors, obviously 75 cards, isn't the most consistent thing. And you have trouble, I guess, even sometimes in 2 colors to get the right cards that you need. But this seems like a pretty promising start, so fingers crossed.
Taken from me. Today I'll play in kind.
And we hope for no negation, but he's probably got it, so it is what it is. If he has the negation and he uses it on that, then chances are he might not have another one, which means we should be safe to play Smuggler next turn. Or he won't negate it at all. Perfect. Maybe we push our luck again. Yeah, screw it, why not?
To make a friendly wager.
So we'll get rid of Thief. Next turn we can Dagoth Oathman. 4 or 5, which will be nice.
Out of my sight.
PSAs on gambling. Honestly, I've never actually gambled in real life. I guess if you count, like, you know, yeah, I guess I've done like football pools and stuff like that with like people that I work with and stuff, but no, I don't really have anything to say about gambling. But drugs, on the other hand, don't do drugs. Or do, I really don't care. RNG really kind of bothers me in this. I try my best to stay away from cards that are RNG centric, like Balmora Spymaster. Surprise! Cards like that, because I don't feel very accomplished if they win me the game. It's like, oh sweet, I won the game due to, you know, this card high rolling me a fucking card to win. You know, tinkering, I think, is as far as I'll go as far as the whole RNG aspect of it goes. But tinkering is also just a really good card in general, and you can use it in a bunch of different decks. I think one of my favorite combos with tinkering is actually Euraxia Tharn and Tinker, because then you Euraxia one of their creatures, which is probably something really high cost, and then you tinker off your Euraxia, so you transform her into something that's like 1 cost more, and you automatically keep the card, because when she dies, obviously, she has to give the card back, but if she gets transformed, it doesn't count. So that's actually a nice little combo with tinkering there. Tinkering can be used in Unite as well. It's actually great fun. I don't really actually have a Unite deck, which is funny. It's like the one thing I haven't really played a whole lot of. That and like super hard control.
I hate this crowd. It's damned uncomfortable.
Out of my sight.
Okay. I've never actually had the. I never actually took the gems to craft the actual card itself. Unite the houses. Which is kind of funny, considering, you know, I play fucking everything pretty much. I did actually make a Unite deck on my alternate account, though. A mono blue Unite, and actually I almost won with it a couple times. But as you can probably imagine, it's quite difficult to use only one color and get Unite, so there's that. But all the good cards for Unite are blue, so I was like, oh, maybe this will work. And you know, I got close like a couple times, but nothing. It didn't actually win any games. Let's just see here. Yeah, I think that's actually game. Shake It Baby in the game. His name's Brian. Brian likes to come up with a lot of like crazy ideas, and we'll just like mess around and spitball ideas at each other anyway. One of the ideas was to play the game on maximum difficulty, so essentially like Dark Souls mode. He made a mono-neutral Unite Singleton, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't win very often, if at all. I think he might have won one game with it, like in the entirety of its actual like being a thing. And I'm pretty sure it was just obviously like just pure luck, right? I don't even know if he won by the actual Unite standard either. I think he might have just won by like beating them down. We come up with silly ideas like that all the time. Stupid stuff like that, see if it works. As a joke, we'll make like, you know, Charis tribal deck and, you know, oh yeah, maybe this will work, and it usually doesn't. But when we actually like seriously try to make a good deck, it usually turns out pretty well, because usually the idea is good. So that's nice. Brian's a super creative guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, and recalls a lot of cards that people don't normally see, which is kind of great because I like using cards that nobody sees a whole lot of.
Well,
Like I'll put Dawnfang in decks that don't normally get Dawnfang. Like I actually made a mid BM the other day. I beat Aini with it yesterday, actually. With mid BM that has one Clockwork Dragon and one Dawnfang. Basically, because mid BM never has Drain, and that's like its biggest weakness, is that it can't gain health. So if you dip into the neutrals, actually, it turns out that there's a couple of cards that you can grab that will actually gain health. And that's one of them. I like to put those kind of cards out there in decks that aren't necessarily Singleton, you know what I mean? You see people play those cards in Singleton, right? But like you never see them play them in like a regular ladder deck that's not Singleton. And it's like, well, why not, you know? And yeah, there's no real reason, I think, just because people either overlook it or they just didn't think about it, or, you know, there's obviously other reasons too. Some people don't think they're very good. Actually, when I beat Aini yesterday, he told me that my deck was shit, and I basically told him off because I don't really care what you fucking say. You can basically tell me that my deck is shit, you can tell me that my cards are shit, and that's fine, but if at the end of the day I beat you, then I don't know what that says about you. It be what it be. I don't think that there are... I mean, obviously there are inherently bad cards, but I don't think that I put bad cards in my deck.
Taken from me. Today,
Like, he must have been referring to, like, Forked Bolt or whatever. I don't know. There's a couple of cards in there that you don't see very often, but Forked Bolt is actually quite good. Okay, so...
We see you waking and sleeping.
People will normally not they don't really like to lose to stuff that you know, they don't like to lose in general, which is fine. I understand that, you know, having a competitive spirit and all that shit. But yeah, if you lose a game to a card just because you've never seen it or you didn't expect it, I mean, that's kind of a good thing. Expected wins like that are the best. It sucks to lose that way, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's refreshing to see a card that you weren't expecting in a deck that, you know, may or may not, or maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't run it. Obviously, it's up to debate, but if it beats you, then I mean, you can't really be that, like, you can't be that salty about it, you know what I mean? Like, if they win with a card that they're not supposed to have, then more power to the opponent, I guess. You'll find a lot of that when you're facing people that are like, I don't know, so say you're in Legend, right, and you get to like the top 50 or so. Normally, like, after that, decks start to kind of like make a lot of sense, like in the top like 200 or so. The theme makes sense and everything like that. As you start to get a little closer to like the 500s and stuff like that, people kind of have those what the fuck cards, and those are the people that will end up beating you more often than not. Which is funny because, you know, objectively they're not, you know, considered to be very good according to the system, but they are still winning games, obviously, which I think is great, you know, good for them. I just don't want them to get like a false sense of what a good deck really is, but I mean, if it's winning games for them, then who cares, right? If they're having fun, then whatever. I mean, as long as it's not fucking stupid shit like Workshop or Invade or, I don't know, any of that fucking dumb stuff that really doesn't lend itself very well to playing the actual game, I think. Like, Invade doesn't teach you how to play the game, if that makes any sense. Oh shit. I think we might have just lost. One off.
Well, let's see if we can find something useful.
Even with the battle mace, we were one off. We needed one more mana, one more damage. Oh well, that's okay. That's okay. One thing that you'll notice, I guess, with me too, is like my rank kind of fluctuates quite a bit up until about the end of the season. I'll usually do a final push around the last like day or two, and then I start to actually really care about climbing and all that good stuff. But for the most part, my rank usually stays from like, it could be anywhere from 1 all the way to fucking god, like I've gotten as low as like, you know, 60 or so before, just on a bad losing streak. Sometimes I even like dip into the 100s if I really don't care, and I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna play this and we'll see what happens. Usually what happens is I end up getting my ass kicked, but you know, I don't know, it builds character, I think, to lose and be able to accept losing. Some people don't take losses very well. I mean, I'm guilty of it sometimes too. For quality purposes, is, you know, try to act the way I'd like to see other people act, you know, lose with grace and fucking win with humility, that kind of shit. It's important, I think, you know, to try to set an example for people.
We must remain steadfast.
Obviously, I don't want to fucking try to inspire a fucking bunch of people that can't handle a loss,
Well,
you know what I
let's see
mean?
if we can
Like,
find something
losing
useful.
happens. Nobody's perfect. For instance, we're probably going to lose this one. Double Withered Hand is a fucking bitch. We'll see. We'll see what goes on. We'll see how it goes. But I'm not feeling too optimistic about this one. My best friend got me into TESL, actually. He was like, hey man, there's this game, you know, basically it's like Elder Scrolls cards, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So like, you know, Skyrim and shit. And he's like, yeah, but like it has like all these things, and it's got 2 lanes. And I was like, 2 lanes? I was like, what the hell's that? And he's like, yeah, like one's a shadow lane. And I was like, oh, dude, I remember thinking when I first started, I was like, oh, just throw all your cards into the shadow lane, and you should win every game, right? And yeah, it doesn't really work that way. It's kind of funny because I started playing with Prophecy Battle Mage, and that's actually kind of what you want to do with that deck. But that's another deck that doesn't really teach you how to play the game very well. Usually you want around like 30 plus if you're playing Prophecy BM, which is not exactly viable, especially if they know what you're up to, because they're just not going to hit you. My best friend Jay got me into TESL, and then I basically, because we used to play a bunch of cards together and stuff like that, he's like, you'd be really good at this, and I was like, oh yeah, probably. And you know, I played a little bit, and then I was like, go back to Hearthstone, because I actually had some money invested in Hearthstone at the time, and then Hearthstone got really bad, and I was like, okay, like I need a new game to play that's not gonna fucking cost me an arm and a leg, and it turns out that TESL was actually rather free to play.
I keep a spare blade in my boot.
This one will hunt you down.
Don't underestimate me.
I have actually put money into it, which is funny because I still don't have a full collection, but I've probably had enough. I've probably had a full collection about 3 times over on my main account. But I'm super impulsive and I dust everything, and you know, then I fucking, I want this premium, or I want this card, or it turns out that card sucks and my idea was actually not that good, or it was better on paper, or maybe I just come into a string of bad luck, right, with that particular idea, so I dust it and fucking make something else. But I mean, I spend a lot of time playing the game anyway, so I don't really mind. You know, not having a full collection doesn't really bother me at all, because, you know, I have the cards that I like and I'll never get rid of them. And then I have the cards that, you know, I like to think that the cards that I have are all the ones that you'll see in, like, you'll see them in top decks anyway. Like fucking Alfiq and, you know, Abner Tharn and, you know, all the good blue cards are the ones that I have. Definitely, 100%. Blue's my favorite color to play. Mainly just because it has so much utility. Pretty much 1-for-1s with blue are very uncommon. Usually when you play a blue card, you get like a card back, or you get like a ward, so you can do like 2-for-1 trades with pretty much everything in blue, which is awesome. No silence or hard removal though, which is kind of shitty, but I mean, you know, you win some, you lose some, and it makes up for it in its other regards. Normally, if you're playing a deck that, you know, say you want your deck to do something like, well, obviously you want all of the decks that you built to win, but if you're just not getting the cards that you're supposed to be getting, then you built the deck wrong. If you are getting the cards that you're supposed to be getting and you're still losing, they either outperformed you or you didn't play to your optimal capacity, I guess is the way to put it. So, like, if I lose this game, I probably either got outperformed or I just got, like, out-prophesied or whatever, you know? This does look like it's going to be a win, but it's still a little early, I guess, to say. But for the most part, if I misplay, I can pretty much, I notice it right away, which is like awesome and also shitty because I kind of beat myself up about it. But for the most part, yeah, you can pretty much tell if you built a deck that's good or not. Mainly the thing here, I'll actually go through. I'll go through how I build a deck. I'll actually build a deck now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when I mention curve, because curve is probably the most important part of building a good deck. And not a lot of people know how to make their shit curve properly. It's not exactly something that's explained to you either by the game. The game is like, oh, you need to have at least 30 creatures and blah blah blah. Like strong decks typically have this or whatever. Like you'll see it in games and in the loading screen and stuff like that. But the game never talks about curve itself. So we'll build a mid blue, like a mid mono blue. I'll show you what a winning curve looks like here, because I think that that's important. I don't think that anybody really talks about this, building a successful deck. I could play mono blue all the way to number 1 if I wanted to. So we'll go Forked Bolt and Lesser Ward. So the reason I'm going to take 2 of each is because I am a huge fan of this card, Fingers of the Mountain, and I like to bring it out early sometimes. It really fucks with your opponent when you can play that card on turn 4 or turn 5 because they're expecting it on turn 6 or later. We're going to need some 1s. We'll go Scroll Seeker. Quartermaster's nice because she gives you a sword to ditch with Discerning Thief, but I do like Scroll Seeker because of the ward. It's a pretty shitty card as far as stats go. 1/2 isn't very great, but with Baron is just bananas. He'll single-handedly win games, especially versus aggro. So we have 3 Ward Crafters, 2. So what's our 2s at? 2s are at 9. 9's a decent number. So normally you want to focus mainly on 2s because you want to have something to play with in the first couple turns. If you don't, you will generally get your ass kicked. 3s are another good, like if you're looking for like a decent mid-range deck, focusing on 3s is never a bad idea either. It's just you'll find that you don't have something to put down quite as early, but if you have good sustainability, then you won't really worry about that too much. 3 Breton Conjurer because he's just absolutely bananas. And because we're running mono blue, our allies will almost always proc, so we'll always have something to hit our Breton with, which is another reason why I run Forked Bolt. Forked Bolt also is kind of like the whole bringing cards out early. Like if you have the ring and you have Breton Conjurer and a Forked Bolt in your hand, you're putting a Frost Atronach, which is a 5/5 with guard, on the field on turn 3, which is just fucking ridiculous. If you luck out and you have a ward and a bolt, or two bolts in your hand and a ward on turn 3, then you put down 2 Frost Atronachs on turn 3, which is absolutely fucked, and usually my opponent will concede if that is the case. The best protection money can buy, this motherfucker. I'm going to be adding a Dawnfang and a Clockwork Dragon to this, so that I have some drain. I mean, I could rely on Manic Jack to roll a drain, but that's not exactly reliable. And I do like to have some sort of like sustainability as far as late game drain heal goes, I guess, and mono blue doesn't necessarily have it. I think the only colors that you can get it in, well, basically anything but blue and red, have drain, actually. The reason I run a Dawnfang and stuff is mainly just because of that. I like to be able to gain some life back and not have to rely on rolling stupid stuff with Jack. Which is another thing, kind of goes back to touch on the whole RNG aspect of it and how I don't like RNG. So yeah, this is like a general, like probably cut a Baron. 3 is a little much. But yeah, this is generally like the kind of curve that you want to see. Like, you know how you see how it's like a nice, like I actually have it, it looks, I mean, maybe if I took away a 6, so I could take away Fingers of the Mountain, but I really like Fingers, and I generally run 51 cards. Your deck doesn't have to be 50 cards or 75 cards in order to be successful. I don't recommend going too much over 50 though. I usually go 51, sometimes 52. 52 feels weird, but you don't notice a huge difference. Obviously, I'm not going to recommend you run a 100 card deck because that's, you know, I mean, a 100 card deck still wins because there are so many good value cards in the game that it doesn't really affect the like performance of your deck, but it will affect the consistency of it. So I do try to recommend people stick closer to the minimum cap. But I mean, you know, going 1 or 2 over is never really a big deal. There's a bunch of different things you can do with mono blue, so it's also kind of unexpected, I suppose. Just in terms of like what you see, most people will expect Atronachs. Sometimes you can be cheeky and add weapons and stuff like that, and I used to actually run a mono blue consume deck which ran the Midnight Trespasser, and he's a 1-drop for 2/2, but he can consume a card and gain another +1/+1 or whatever the consume card does. So I run Ill-Fated Scholars in that, and Ill-Fated Scholar really shines in a deck like that, even though it's a legendary, crappy 3-drop 3/2. Normally, it will do some pretty nutty stuff. Like on turn 6, instead of playing Alfiq, you play Temple Conjurer and consume a Ill-Fated Scholar with Midnight Trespasser, and you end up getting like a combined total of, I think it's 11 and 8 or something like that on the board. No, it's like 13 and 10 or something like that is your combined stats, which is just bananas. How does this deck play against Monk or Support or Invade? So basically, the way it'll beat Monk Support is it beats it fast. The way it beats Invade by basically just trading really well in the shadow lane. So like you will basically put all of your cards in the shadow lane, no questions asked, and you have to fight for it. Obviously, there are times where it gets a little daunting. Those games are usually a bit more of a slugfest than anything else, and you have to trade properly in order to win. But it is very much capable of beating those decks. It just takes a little longer, that's all. I know not having, card removal or support removal sucks. If you really find that you're lacking in support removal in general, you can always dip into neutral and grab Vicious Drew or Dro or whatever the fuck it's called. Or you can also look into getting 1 or 2 dismantles in your deck. I'm not a huge fan of Dismantle personally. I'm not really a huge fan of the other card either. To be honest with you, they are a little situational. But I mean, if you really find your deck is like lacking in that regard, then that is definitely, those are 2 cards that you can look at adding to your deck. Generally speaking though, if you play the deck to its strengths, you normally won't have a whole lot of trouble winning games. Yeah, like I'll show you what I mean. Hopefully we can pull this one off. It's looking pretty promising just based on the fact that we have Fingers of the Mountain in our hand ×2. So like we have a pretty decent little way to come back if we start to lose. Hopefully we can get some draws off of this. Discerning Thief. Generally speaking, you want to control field lane. Mainly because you can actually decide the trades. So if you have the shadow lane, for instance, cards are coming out, but you don't have the ability to interact with them immediately, which definitely impedes, how you play the game. Obviously, if a card's going to live for a turn, then, maybe that would really mess you up. Obviously, that's how people will try to sneak in lethal or whatever. Usually it'll come through the shadow lane, and if you don't have instant interaction with it, so like a lightning bolt or anything like that, that's why you'll find decks that don't really have a whole lot of cards that target. So like Telvanni, for instance, is a really good example for this. The only card Telvanni has that immediately interacts with the shadow lane is if they run Fingers, if they run Mummify. Normally Telvanni doesn't run Fingers. But they don't have any hard removal for the shadow lane, except for Mummify. So normally they'll Viper your creature, right? So they'll play Viper and they'll kill it with lethal. But if they don't have Viper, or if they do have Viper, whatever, but if you're in the shadow lane, your card has cover. So the only card that they can play from their hand and kill your creature is Mummify. Normally, back in the day, this was like a while ago, nobody fucking ran Mummify. So it was a big deal if you put, say, Alfiq Conjurer in the shadow lane, because I did have Magister in my last deck that I had with this stuff. I usually had him in as a 1/2, as a 1 or a 2 of, and it's because nobody fucking expects Magister. Actually, nobody sees that card. Nobody plays it, which is weird. I don't know why. He's super good, especially with Fingers, Fingers of the Mountain. I'll actually pop a copy of him in here in a bit, like right after this game, actually. Oh, look at that. That's a nice draw. So this is usually the shitty part. I don't know if I want to get rid of that. I think I'll get rid of the Harpy. I'm not trying to push too hard right now, so I'm going to keep that Steel Sword in my hand. Sometimes if I'm being a little more aggressive, I'll just say fuck it and play it, but I didn't want him to draw another card because he's playing this probably what looks like hard control. Giving him another card is basically just giving him another removal for my creatures, and I'd rather not have to worry about that too much at the moment. But this is looking like it's going to be, yeah, this is looking like it's going to be pretty good. So another reason why I like Fingers is because you can proc your own shit, like Breton. So we're going to swing now. If he plays, say, so he could have gotten a Prophecy, hopefully not Mummify. I don't mind if he destroys the Atronach, that doesn't bother me. If he played something that would, say, make it not an Atronach and turn it into a mummy, like Mummify, right? Obviously that's a bit of an issue, because I want the Atronach in my grave. But if he gets like a Javelin and Javelin's my Atronach, I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me, because I want the Atronach in my grave so I can get a Storm Atronach with my Alfiq, which is basically like, that's like the big hitting card of this deck, is the Stormy. Obviously you're not just sacking off your own shit, but if he's going to get a removal anyway, I'd rather him remove that, right? And usually they will, because it's the highest attacking card on your board. So they're like, oh fuck, I don't want that guy, on the board. He's gonna, ruin my day. Well, take him off, and then let me use him in the grave. So I think we can actually push here. I think we might actually have game. I don't know, let's see. So let's count it up. 5, 6, 8, 11, 11, and then we have 14, and then plus another 3. Yeah, that's game. All right, let's see if we can do it.
The best protection money can buy.
Let's see what we got. A lot of people will also forget Mentor's Ring, as well as it being a great card for like giving wards and stuff to your creatures. It's also 3 reach. And what I mean by reach is like damage from your hand. So Bolt, Lightning Bolt is reach. Any weapon usually is reach. Say if you have a Divine Fervor in your hand and you have a board full of creatures, Divine Fervor can be considered reach. Obviously knowing your cards is another thing, like it's a big deal. We're gonna be cheeky. I think we can keep this. We'll see. Because of the nature of our curve, we should, quote unquote, watch me not get anything that I need. We should be able to, yeah, see, look, we should draw into like a 2 or a 3. So generally we'll have a card to play. Because we have the ring, we can get away with keeping cheeky hands like this. And because of the nature of our curve, normally we'll draw our lower drops early on in the game. Sometimes you get screwed and it happens that you draw your 5s and your 6s and shit like that. Within the first 10 cards, it's like, oh, I only run like, say 8 in my top end, and you end up drawing like 6 of the 8 of your fucking giant cards and you can't play anything. That does happen. It is a thing. It's, basically the random nature of the game that we're playing because of the way that decks are.
Care to make a friendly wager?
Sometimes I do keep wilds if I run the wilds. The only thing about running wilds is if you're not playing a deck that has life gain, it's pretty dangerous to keep a wilds in your starting hand. So Channeled Storm here is going to come in handy, like pretty much right away. Normally I'll keep a Channeled Storm in my beginning hand if I have it. Even if it's off-ring, I'll keep a Channeled Storm because they can ring out the Gambler, and then you have a 3 damage to kill the Gambler. Same thing with Crushing Blow. If you're playing a deck that doesn't have blue or 3-drop removal, you want to play Crushing Blow because that Gambler getting off, like, the draw 2 is a big deal. You don't want them to do that. So generally speaking, I try to keep something to get rid of it. Unfortunately, Alfiq isn't exactly live yet, but I'm going to play it anyway. It's a strong card to play in general. Good stats and all that good stuff. And we have a card in the grave to consume. Always make sure that you have something in the grave. I've done that where you play Alfiq and there's nothing in the grave and you're like, oh fuck. And you basically just played a 6-drop 3/3 with guard, and it sucks. But it happens. Just like everything else, shit happens, and you this is another thing too, is obviously nobody likes to misplay, but misplays happen. What makes you a great player is your ability to adapt to the shitty situations that you put yourself into. So like, you know, like this kind of sucks, but I think we can, you know, we're not really too hurting right now. Like we can make this work. Next turn on Kano is live, just due to the nature of the ring. The ring is busted, by the way. In case anybody wants to know how I feel about the ring, I think the ring is broken. But it's an inherent mechanic of the game that we have to learn how to deal with. If you're losing because you don't get the ring, then maybe you should build your deck around lower cost creatures and stuff like that that don't have to, you know, you shouldn't be able to, you shouldn't have to rely on the ring to win. Obviously it sucks if they get it and they're like super hard aggro, but like I said, that's just, you know, if you find yourself running into decks that, you know, play 100 creatures by turn 3, maybe you should run Firestorms, right? Like stupid shit like that will actually make a big difference. Honestly, I think that the ring should not exist. Or if it does, it should only be like one use, kind of like in Hearthstone. You know, and then the other person draws a card, you get to play the ring type deal. But overall, there is no real fix for the ring in general, unfortunately. It just is what it is. I guess the only fix, quote unquote, for the ring is good deck building. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, I played Magic. Magic was actually like my university card game. I played that a lot when I got into university, not before. And yeah, no, I liked Magic a lot. But Magic is a very different beast from TESL. Just in general, Magic is a very broken game, and they don't do balance checks really. So if a card is broken in Magic, like, okay, so if a card is like good, quote unquote, in Magic, it's literally like the most busted thing ever in like a game like TESL. Magic is what I like to call broken balance, where every deck is basically so busted that it's just, you know, that's how everybody plays the game. Everybody's deck has a chance to go off and win with some stupid combo OTK bullshit that literally doesn't matter.
Is someone out there?
It would be nice to be able to get rid of the ring. Like right now, I guess, you know, like if I played the ring at this moment, say I had Alien Guardian in hand, I could play Alien, right? And Alien's just busted anyway, but normally if you could only remove it on turn 3 or later, I can't think of any other cards that come out before 3 that would be able to destroy a support in particular. So I don't think that would fix it, but it would definitely be it would be one way to rectify the imbalanced nature of the ring. Oh, look at that! Beauty! Then people say Forked Bolt's a bad card. I think it would be nice to see the person that gets the ring doesn't draw a card on their first turn. Kind of the way it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic. You can play one land per turn, and then you tap your land for mana, essentially, to add to your mana pool. So in this, it's different where you can ramp, obviously, with cards that, allow you to ramp. But in Magic, you can destroy land, right? So I can actually basically take away my opponent's mana, right? So that's a bit of a different beast entirely. But as far as TESL goes, you can't really destroy their mana. You can limit it with cards like Garnag and stuff like that. And that's why, by the way, if anybody's wondering, Garnag is the best card in the game.
We must protect the Night Mother!
And anybody who doesn't think so can fight me. I'll be outside at 5 o'clock, flagpole. So feel free to meet up. But Garnag is the best card in the game. And anybody that doesn't think so...
We must protect the Night Mother!
You can get fucked. I really don't care. That's not what you say.
Night Mother!
Because Garnag there's no one card in the game that can single-handedly win a game faster than fucking Garnag. Obviously, there are other great cards in the game. Fantastic cards, actually. But for the most part, Garnag will stop 95% of the shitty decks you don't want to lose to on the ladder, like Telvanni. Telvanni gets fucked by the ring, or Garnag. Basically, any deck in general that has anything that goes above 8, Garnag will pretty much stop them. And a lot of your least favorite cards actually cost 8, like Dawn's Wrath, or Unstoppable Rage, or Ancano, or, I don't know, insert fucking card here that you don't like. Chances are it probably costs more than 8. Alien Guardian, Siege destroys Makai, so it destroys Singleton. Yeah, and he's got good stats for what he is too. Like he's no slouch in the stats department. 4 or 5 for 4 is good, and he's got breakthrough, and he's an orc for all those people that like the orc synergies and stuff like that. So you play him with Headhunter and shit like that.
My paws are quicker than your eyes.
But yeah, no, Garnag is the best card. Second best card, in my personal opinion. Well, second best red, I guess, is Belly G. Probably the best blue is Alfiq or Ancano. I don't know. So usually between those two, I think. Best green card, probably Razum. Best yellow, probably Mirak or fucking Javelin. Javelin's pretty fucking stupid. Mainly because it's a prophecy. 5-drop removal doesn't seem very good, but when you get to play it for free on your opponent's turn, it becomes a bit of an issue.
Well, let's see if we can find something.
Yeah,
useful.
purple, probably Necromancer. I mean, nobody asked. I'm just kind of giving my opinion here, but I think Necromancer is fucking awesome. RNG fucking screws with me all the time, so I don't. I try not to take that. I try to take those with a grain of salt, Everybody wins and loses and all that shit. Like this guy getting charged on his Manic Jack, like fuck that. That's some bullshit. But I'll live, it's not gonna make me quit the game. There was a time, actually this kind of goes back to the whole mono month thing I told you about the other day. When me and Fluffy did the mono month challenge, I was really... There was a point where I was getting super annoyed because, like somebody had pointed out earlier, obviously there's not really a whole lot that... mono blue can do against supports. So decks like Telvanni with their fucking altar and their fucking amulets and shit would really fuck me over because I was playing a mono blue consume aggro deck at the time, so if I didn't get the aggro cards I needed right off the bat, or they sustained really well, which is like a Telvanni staple, so they can sustain like a motherfucker. That's why they're so annoying to face. Then, you know, obviously you end up, you know, getting your shit pushed in, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And it's annoying because you're like, okay, I guess I'll just watch you alter all the way up to fucking Lawnath and lose the game because I can't do anything about your fucking supports. So I was getting a little annoyed there. Basically just not being able to make the decks that I kind of wanted to make because I was getting a lot of really good ideas while I was playing the mono month, and I was like, you know, I can't fucking make this dual colored deck, like this is fucking stupid. And I basically told at one point, I was like, man, I kind of want to quit. I was like, fucking this is getting stupid. Like, he's like, nah, if it's making you want to do that, man. He's like, don't do the challenge. I was like, no, but I want to see it through, you know. Fucking we decided we were gonna do this together. I didn't want to fucking back out on him. But it was pissing me off, to say the least. But, you know, Kevin being who he is, you know, fantastic fellow. We ended up pulling it through and fucking we made it work. I kind of was just being a bit of a fucking diva, I guess, at the moment. I was getting pissed off, and it was it was nobody's fault but my own, really. I could have built a better, you know, around obviously my weaknesses. I was just getting pissed off because I couldn't play what I wanted to play. But at the end of the day, we don't always get what we want, and I decided to do the challenge on my own, so I could have also pulled out at any point, but I didn't want to be that guy. But yeah, that was a fucking rough one. The mono month was fucked. By the way, I ended up finishing like 52 or something like that with mono blue. I think I could do better now because it's not a necessity to play it, so I can play it whenever I want. And the mono blue that I was running wasn't exactly my inherent playstyle, where like I'm more of a mid-range player. I was playing an aggro deck, so that kind of also threw me off. I don't know what possessed me to make an aggro deck and run it all season, but yeah, that's what happened there. But yeah, no, mono month was rough.
Begone.
Oh, well, what's he getting rid of? If I ever had to do another mono month, I think I would do it again. But I would like to maybe be a little more lax on some of the rules, I suppose. Because basically the way we played it was you can do mono month. Like mono month was mono colored decks only, and then we could have up to 5 neutrals. But obviously that was just to deter, like, you know, from running blue, quote unquote, blue, and masquerading. Masquerading is blue essentially, but having you know, being Dwemmers or something like that, right? Like it's not actually blue. It's neutral with a splash of blue, you know what I mean? So it was to deter stuff like that, but I mean, you know, running like regular crabs in a blue deck would be fun. And, you know, obviously the whole reflective automaton, you know, Alfiq synergy is a thing, and also super fun and good. But I mean, the OSA into Alfiq 2-turn combo is just absolutely bananas strong. So yeah, I don't know. I would do mono month again, 100%. I also know more than I did back a couple months ago, so you know, play it a little more often than I should probably. But like I said, there isn't even a movie theater here, so there's nothing to fucking do, and it's starting to get cold outside. So yeah, I basically I play this, and that's why I'm on all the time, and also because I love it. I think that the mono thing is rough because you only have it's the limited pool that you have to choose from, and each color has their own inherent strengths and weaknesses, and it's difficult for people to play to the strength of a deck based on basically just what they put together. So it's like blue has inherently strong utility, so like how do you utilize utility to the fact that it doesn't matter that I don't have support removal or hard removal, right? Playing to the strength of a deck in particular is actually a lot harder than people think, and only being able to play that one strength does make a big difference. So the duality, like the dual colors and tricolors and stuff like that, they give you inherently more options to choose from. And honestly, in any game like this, having more options is always a big deal. The more options you have, the more chances are that you'll find yourself in a situation where you can utilize these cards and win. That's generally the way games like this are won, is by having 100 different options that you can, pick from. Obviously, it doesn't always go in your favor, and the option isn't always there. But for the most part, like a card like, say, Belligerent Giant, being able to destroy a support or bounce a creature is a big deal, right? Because sometimes they don't have a creature on the board to bounce, but they have that fucking altar there, or they have those amulets or whatever. So definitely the lack of options is shitty. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like that's the main reason why doing mono is difficult.
Is the core of knowledge.
You fight well.
My claws are sharp and thirsty.
We used to host tournaments, so NPO used to host tournaments. I'm actually looking to do one probably around the end of December. For anybody that's interested, I'm going to try to organize that myself, and I'll stream it and all that good stuff. So there will be a tournament, hopefully. If I don't get any okay from CVH as far as like money and stuff goes for like card packs and shit, then I'll just give out my own rewards. That's actually how I did the very first tournament that I ever hosted. Was I paid out of my own pocket for it, which is fine. I don't mind doing it. It's a game I love. It's for the most part, a pretty good community. So spending an extra couple bucks, to kind of put back into the community doesn't really bother me all that much. But yeah, no, the first, or one of the tournaments that I won was actually one that we hosted. The reason I hosted our tournaments on Sundays is because I worked every other day of the week, so I wanted to actually be able to play in a tournament every month, and that was the day to choose. And anyway, it was me and Nami in the finals, and I think our final game was, I was Guild Sworn and he was like Redoran or something like that, and I was like, no, he was Telvanni. And anyway, I kept Mirak on my opening hand, and by the end of the game, I ended up stealing both of his Alien Guardians, and he ended up conceding, and I ended up winning I won the whole thing, and so that was pretty sweet. That's probably like my biggest, like my most fond memory, I suppose, as far as the whole game goes and stuff like that. That was, I'm not going to say it was like an all-time high, but it was definitely like, oh, sick, I won my first tournament, now I can get all these, like, all these gems and dust a bunch of cards and, make some more premiums. Actually, I think that after that tournament was like when I got my premium playset of Alfiques, actually, as well.
I smell the stench of the living.
I have many important things on my mind.
It's not about buying deck codes. You actually just contact CVH. You have to reach out to CVH, and basically, I don't think he has any codes left. So it's like a thing that they have to do. Like they'll go in and they'll actually just be like, okay, so this guy gets this many packs or whatever. I'll have to ask around and see how that all works, but I will promise to let you know what I know when I know it, if that makes any sense.
Claws are sharp and thirsty.
Cooking is definitely my thing. That's actually how I put food on my own table. Albeit, pizza pockets and whatnot.
Watch yourself now.
Okay, we're gonna try to beat him in the next couple turns. I don't really want to take this game too long because that's really where he shines, and then I'm gonna be totally fucked.
Midnight scroll.
Broad advice for new players or anybody. So at the end of the day, it kind of the game obviously boils down to having fun. Play what you like. Obviously, I mean, it's hard to say that though, because people like, if you like to play Invade because it's winning and all you care about is winning, then I don't encourage that, personally. But I don't know. Think for yourself, fucking play that cool combo that you like. Play those cards that are a little unexpected that, your opponent's definitely not going to see coming because they'll win you games. Don't rely on, broken, shitty mechanics in order to win a game. So like, as little RNG as possible, I would definitely encourage that. Try to have autonomy over your games. It's always nice to be able to decide what happens instead of hope for the best, you know what I mean? So like if I can decide that I'm going to summon a flame atronach, like that's nice, I don't have to fucking rely on a mighty conjuring coming down and, am I going to get the storm or am I going to get the, even little crappy RNGs like that kind of fuck you over at the end of the day. You will rarely see me roll on that, actually. It happens sometimes, but not very often. Yeah, I think my best advice is just, like make your own stuff, make your own decks, develop your own playstyle. It's important because, you can use decks that other people give you all the time, but you'll never really come up with your own deck building habits, and you don't really define yourself as a player. Everybody has their own little combos and cards that they like to use, and figuring that out, like what your favorites are and stuff like that, makes a big difference, especially when you're playing a game like this, where you have so many different options and so many different cards to choose from. The odds of you choosing cards, the odds of you using bad cards are pretty high, obviously, but there's also so many good cards in the game that can be utilized in so many different ways that I don't think that, while on paper it's all been done, it hasn't actually all been done. There are always new combos and shit like that to utilize and fucking, throw around that people haven't seen, and it's honestly the reason I keep playing the game, because it hasn't all been done. So do your own shit, don't be sheep, fucking think for yourself, make your own decks, and don't be afraid to take criticism on your decks and stuff like that. Chances are, I don't take every single thing for face value when I play. Obviously my deck isn't going to be necessarily the best. Sometimes it is the best, but for the most part, yeah, think for yourself, do your own stuff, do your own thing. And he's about to beat me.
The hist shall heal you.
It's much more rewarding that way too, I'll say. So is there any possible way Okay. Okay, kids, don't try this at home.
I will not be on the wrong side of history.
I smell the stench of the living.
Probably could have did that in the other lane, maybe. I don't know. Maybe this is good.
You fight well. Stendar, give me strength.
I have many important things on my mind.
Do not vex me.
Almost. Almost survived. That just went on a little too long. As you can see, I didn't really get any of my early game stuff. It was mainly all Alpheeks and stuff. And whenever I had a Brett and I didn't have a card to proc it with, which is a big pain. But that stuff happens, obviously. You know, you can make your deck any way you want if it's not consistent. It is consistent, but even the most consistent decks don't always draw a winning combination. This is a deck that I've been working on for the last little while with a little bit of help from a couple of friends. This deck wins quite often, and it wins quite quickly.
This is interesting.
And it is running a couple of suggestions from old friends like Nocturnal and stuff like that. He suggested I run Improvised Weapon and Rage for Rehab.
My paws are quicker than your eyes.
My scarecrows move in shadow.
It's always a good feeling when your deck actually works, especially if it's a mono deck. Like if you make a mono deck and it kicks ass, then like that's a really good feeling. Just because it's fucking harder. It's harder to build a mono deck, I think.
I will not waste
This is a game where obviously, like, you know, the only real interaction you have with your opponent is through the emotes and stuff like that we have here on our little character avatar. If you're gonna win a game, don't fucking sit there and spam time to die weakling, because you're a piece of shit if you do. I don't care if you do it and you're in my fucking Twitch chat or not. You're here and you're listening. Don't do that. Don't be a piece of shit. We want more people to play the game. So acting like an asshole like that really turns people off. You know, obviously there's going to be those people on the ladder anyway, but you don't need to be one of them as well. Just because everybody else does it doesn't mean you have to do it too. Obviously, you know, some people deserve it. So if somebody's going to sit there and fucking spam you with emotes, yeah, I'm going to emote them right before I beat their ass. But, I mean, you know, you'll find out who those people are, right? You'll know who they are because they'll do it every time. I'm not going to call anybody out. There's no point to do any of that.
We must remain
But
steadfast.
yeah, man, like just be nice to other people, you know? Just because you're, you know, playing a game online and you never actually have to see that person in real life doesn't mean you have to treat them like shit. People want to play the game. You want other people to play the game and stuff like that, right? Like it might never get picked back up for development, but that doesn't mean that we want the community to get so small that they shut it down early or anything like that. I don't know how long this game is gonna last, but, you know, be fucking nice to people, you know? Like, if you're gonna add somebody just to fucking, like, flame them and talk a bunch of shit and fucking be really fucking rude, then just don't add them. Don't talk to them, you know? It's not hard.
Cannot hope to outwit me.
Like, it's easier to not do something than it is to, you know, take the time out of your day and be a dick. Yeah, I think that would be like my bit of advice on that whole, like in that regard anyway.
My last battlefield.
Our foes will have nightmares about me.
blood price.
The Night Mother will guide us.
Your destruction is at hand.
See, this is a card that I don't understand why he's running. Like, I get what his idea is and stuff like that, but if he's playing Burn or like any sort of like aggro type deck in general, you want to keep your creatures on the board. So sacking them off like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, obviously it just did him well there, so I can't really talk shit about it. I just think it's an odd decision to play a card like that. Usually there's like some underlying synergy and stuff like that that you'll see, but I mean, that's just it's basically a removal, which is good, but he's also removing his own creature, so I don't know. Maybe that's just me being a little nitpicky and stuff like that. I have, you know, been known to be weird and nitpicky in weird instances like that, so that could just be an OCD thing. That's a good card. Well, that's a good addition, rather. I mean, that's an impressive thing. I wouldn't have assumed that he had a fucking heirloom greatsword kicking around in his hand, but, you know, here we are. I will always have a competitive nature. I'll always want to win in any game that I play, not just TESL. But I get especially competitive with, like, people that I know are, you know, particularly good. Somebody you'll hear on the channel, or you'll see on the channel quite a bit, actually, is Broda. Me and Broda have a pretty decent back and forth, you know, frenemy type relationship where one of us will beat the other and usually talk shit, or we'll fucking get mad, or, you know, but we also kind of send each other decks and, you know, check this out, or see how this is going, or what do you think of this, or whatever. The competitive nature is just a part of the game. It's also why I made my own team. It's important to also, like, while you have that competitive nature, to also have that kind of, like, camaraderie, I guess, to make decks and, you know, that kind of stuff, and to basically bounce ideas off of other people. You know, you're never going to think of all the ideas ever. Like this guy here, this guy used to be a NPO, actually. He was one of the founding members of the team. He was like one of the first people I ever recruited. We have had some choice words, to put it lightly. He's said he's never going to lose to me on the ladder ever again. I've already beaten him like 10 other times since he said that, so that's obviously not true. You know, you don't say something stupid like that either, by the way. Everybody can lose, and everybody will lose. You'll lose to the person you like the least. Let's just put it that way. The game will find a way to fuck you. You could have, you know, a decent hand, they have better cards, they have fucking, you know, every answer. It's just, it happens. It is what it is, and, you know, there's not really any way around it. I think my biggest thing for the whole competitive nature aspect of it is, don't be upset if you lose a game that you weren't necessarily supposed to win anyway. And what I mean by that is, some games you're not supposed to win. You can just tell by the cards that are being played that there is no possible way you ever would have won. Just let it go, you know, at the end of the day. Even if they're going on fucking Facebook and posting a bunch of shit about you in the fucking TESL fucking Facebook group, just let it go. It's not a big deal at the end of the day. And it's more of a testament to your character in the end, to be the bigger person and not let it bother you, I guess. That being said, you know, obviously sink them when you can, you know, go for the win. Don't not go for the win, you know what I mean? Like, always aim to win and play to win, but don't be mad if you lose, because, you know, it happens to everybody.
I fight with the fervor of the wild hunt.
I ride like the wind. Time to mount up.
There's nowhere they can The hunter becomes the hunter.
We'll see how they like someone who fights back. As long as I grow up.
Number one change needs to be Yagram's Workshop. It needs to either be a 6-drop or something needs to change about that card in particular. Number two, Skirmisher, Murkwater Skirmisher only gives +1/+1 to all goblins instead of +2/+2. And I think number three is Invade's keywords are set in a certain order. I think those are the big ones that I can think of.
This one will hunt you down. You fight well.
We stand united.
I am ready to.
He's probably got me, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. Never mind, I guess I beat him again. Okay. Those are the wins that feel the best, by the way, when you are facing against somebody that you know you have had ill words with or whatever like that. Those are the best wins, obviously. But still try to be humble when you win like that. Don't fucking go and, you know, message them and be like, oh, you just got fucking wrecked or whatever. Let's put it this way: when you win, stay humble, because if you're not humble, then the game has a very funny way of humbling you humbling you in that regard anyway. The game will humble you just by giving you shitty cards, and you'll go on a really bad losing streak, and you'll feel like shit. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody. I think they've all gone on those nasty losing streaks. You know, nobody's perfect. Nobody doesn't go on a losing streak. Even fucking who's widely considered to be the best player in the entire game, Thulder. I've watched him go on like, you know, +10 or whatever losing streaks. It happens, you know. At the end of the day, it's not, you know, those losing streaks don't make you a bad player. Obviously, it sucks to go on a losing streak, but, you know, shit happens. You know, it's not the end of the world. So that was a fuck up on my behalf. Swing first and then play your cards. I've been pretty bad for that lately, actually.
Citizen.
Always break a rune first. Yikes. Fucking javelin.
By Arcade's beard, stay back!
Ita Oriel.
We stand united.
distance.
At the ready.
Speak, citizen.
Ita Oriel.
We must remain steadfast.
I think we'll hold on to these for now. He's probably going to double team that Withered Hand in the field there. I don't think he needs to go face.
Ita Oriel.
Okay, we're that, I guess. Wow.
Ita Oriel.
There we go. Okay, now let's do it. Now we can actually do something fun. Maybe, obviously. It's still a maybe.
Tawaka watches over the fray.
This one will hunt you down.
Your coin or your life. Choose.
I know a shortcut. I'll clear a path.
Ita Oriel.
They're in my sights.
I've been playing since the beginning of I think the beginning of 2018, I believe. 2018 or 2019. I'm thinking 2018 is the right answer. Edict, javelin, something. I don't know. He's gonna throw something shitty down.
I'll clear a path.
Your coin or your life. Choose.
None of them can be trusted. Do you hear me?
My paws are quicker than your eyes. I'll clear a path.
What's your
Son of a bitch.
Close ranks, let nothing through.
Soldiers, form up!
I'll clear a path.
ranks. Let nothing through.
Close the formation.
The Nords must take back Sky.
I'll do what I can.
Orders?
I have many important things on my mind.
Let's knock some heads. Death be damned!
Awesome. Fucking right. There we go. And that's why I like to run one copy of Unstoppable Rage. It wins games. It really does. So this next deck I'm going to play, somebody at the very beginning of the stream had mentioned something about a 50 card Singleton. I'll play this. It's a Sorcerer Singleton. This actually is one of the very few times that I'll play a deck that isn't mine. This was actually given to me by VVS9. I don't know if you know in particular who that is, but if you guys have read it and you guys look at the Grand Melee standings, VVS9 is usually around the top. He's a very good player. He's been playing for a long time. Longer than I have. And yeah, the other day I played against him on the ladder. I was using a Halalu Singleton. He said respect, and he was like, here, try this. And yeah, I only played it like a couple games, but it looks fun. It looks good. The curve is good. So yeah, it's basically an aggro tempo type deal, Singleton. So let's see what we can do. See if we can't win a game.
I concede to your promise.
So that wasn't really a game. We'll try to do we'll try to do this one, I guess, again, because that buddy just fucking pieced off. I don't know why he decided that he was gonna quit, but I mean, he really didn't like to see that haunting spirit come down. I guess I have no idea. This is actually a pretty good opening hand, because we have the ring, obviously. If we didn't have the ring, it would still be okay. But if he was like hard aggro or something like that, then we'd get kind of screwed. He's gonna trade into us, so we're still gonna swing. We'll swing face, and what are we gonna ditch? I think we can get away with getting rid of... Let's get rid of Crushing Blow, because I would like to use the plate. Actually, let's play Haunting Spirit. So he could bolt.
Out upon it.
Okay. We could attempt to save our Discerning Thief. I don't think it's going to matter. So Discerning Thief is wrote off at this point, unless we want to make him do the whole trade thing. But then, okay, so this is why we don't want to use the Enchanted Plate on Discerning Thief, because if we do that, he crashes all 3 and then bolts our Haunting Spirit, and we get no value out of Haunting Spirit, so we'll play this instead. A, it's better tempo. It's more creatures on the board, which is essentially means more tempo, more damage on the board, more things to worry about, and he can't kill that Haunting Spirit and get away with it scot-free, which is good. And also, Mage has no silence, so they can't silence him unless he runs Knife to the Throat, which is a bad card, and I don't recommend running it in general, because 4-drop silence, even though you're drawing the card, that's 4 fucking mana. Like, that's a lot. So try not to run that card ever if you can.
Perhaps we can help one another.
So he could Javelin, which if he has a Javelin in his hand, he's probably going to play it on Tel'Vos. Or he could Penitus Oculatus Agent, or Penis Agent is what I call him, and steal my keyword. Which I hate to see happen to like my Breton Conjurer or something like that, that needs the ward, like Daggerfall Mage, that kind of stuff. He's a bit of a prick, but he's also a great card. So he opts to Camel. This will be good though, because we can actually see more of his deck and kind of get a more of an idea of what he's running. Harpies and Daggerfall Mage are pretty standard for a Mage build, so. We're just going to go face. I don't think I'm too worried about anything that'll come out, and I mean, we have quite a bit of damage, so yeah, we're just going to go face. And then next turn, if he gets rid of the ward on Tel'Vos, or if he kills Tel'Vos, or whatever happens, we should be able to play Abner on Emmerich, hopefully, and keep pushing, and maybe actually win next turn, depending on what happens.
By the 8th, they will meet their makers.
If we're ahead on the board, which we are, then we can usually go face pretty like worry-free. We're setting the pace right now, so we don't really worry about trading with that. You know, we're not going to really worry about trading with this Bruma here. For the most part, you go face when you can afford to go face. I'm not going to go face against an aggro deck right off the bat unless I think I can out-aggro them, which is very, very seldom that I think I can out-aggro an aggro deck. Plus, we have the mute in hand, so we're not really too worried about anything that he plays as far as keywords go or the ability to heal. Obviously, it comes down to what you have in your hand and what you have on the board. Mainly if you have board control, but you have nothing left in your hand, it's probably not a good idea to go face if your opponent has like fucking 100,000 cards. So this guy here, like obviously his removals are 5 apiece, so I'm not too worried about him playing removals because they're gonna be expensive, right? Even still, we have game next turn, right? This is a good example, and I'm actually kind of happy that this happened. If you have game don't fuck around with your opponent and fucking try to get the cool combo and stuff like that that you want to get, because you'll oftentimes end up losing. Like I said, the game has a funny way of humbling you. Don't be greedy. When you have the win, just take it. Obviously, if it's like versus something like Prophecy Battle Mage, then you might want to make sure that you have some extra contingencies in your hand in order to deal with problems like that. Like, obviously, you can go face and, oh, well, it it hinges on every single card hitting face in order for me to get lethal. Like, chances are that's not going to happen if you're fighting against a deck that had, like, Prophecy Battle Mage. So you'll see a lot of people, when they're fighting against Prophecy Battle Mage, they'll build their board up to just be a fuck-off giant board. It seems like overkill, but it really isn't. The reason being is because no matter what happens when they're doing their final swing, they're going to win. And, you know, that's a safe way to play. It's not exactly the most entertaining and riveting way to play, but it's safe. And at the end of the day, safe plays are better to make than, you know, reckless and whatever, like, you know, taking risks. I take a lot of risks personally, but that's because I don't really care if I go up or down in the ranks, because I know I can just get it back. Whereas, you know, some people aren't as confident with their ability on the ladder, and they should, you know, maybe just play a little safer. So they do play safer. A big example is Telvanni. Telvanni is a deck that pretty much only ever plays safe. That's why it's a boring deck to fight, but it's a rewarding deck to beat. So, you know, for all you Telvanni users out there, you know, keep on doing your thing, I guess. You're a pain in the ass to fight, but you are rewarding as hell to beat. Actually, the other day on stream, I got a win, and this is no word of a lie. I set this up against Demon69696. He plays Telvanni religiously, so whenever I beat him, it always feels really good. But I played Withered Hand Cultist in the Shadow. He had a full Shadow lane, and I played a Steel Sword on him, and then I passed. In my hand, I had Improvised Weapon and Rage. The next turn, I played Improvised Weapon on my Withered Hand Cultist. I played another Steel Sword. I raged. I got him down to like 9, I think. Yeah, I got him down to 9. Or 9 or 10. Yeah, it was 10. I got him down to 10 HP, and then I swung, so I won with Withered Hand Cultist from Rage at full mana, which was bananas. It was perfect lethal from whatever, but nobody expects to see Unstoppable Rage come from a Withered Hand Cultist, right? Because normally you don't run those two cards together. It's just a cheeky thing I do. I like having the surprise Rage because it oftentimes will beat Telvanni. And that's a big reason why I run Rage, is mainly for Telvanni. It's Telvanni conscription tech. So if you have cards in your top end that have breakthrough, you should probably run Rage as a one of in your aggro deck. Not aggro deck, but like mid-range aggro. Because Telvanni will almost always have a way to string the game out until they get conscription. And when you Rage a full lane, which is, you know, right after conscription, you can usually do a shitload of damage and win the game. So, yeah, turn their card against them, essentially, in a way. Like, what they think is their strength becomes their weakness, right? Just a little thing like that. So it looks like he's playing Rage Crusader. That was the main reason why I wanted to use fingers there and kill that giant, because I don't like the idea of him having a Rage basically alive. And I am gonna, if I wasn't gonna kill it with fingers, I'd have to contest it with creatures, in which case he rages and then I lose, probably. I was actually taking a break from the game when it went out of, or when it was announced that it wasn't going to be developed anymore. So I didn't really, like, it didn't really bother me. Like, I came back to it all the same. I think now that it's not being developed, it's not a bad thing, because it's like, you know, everything that you have seen or will see or whatever is kind of out there already. But that being said, it's not necessarily, it's not that you won't ever see anything new ever again. It's just that it won't be.
I see you're in need of my wisdom.
Ah, shit. Uh-oh. Okay, I was hoping to get a ward. Okay, so we swing. He's probably gonna rage, and that's gonna suck. But we can make it work. Yeah, so it didn't really bother me, like the whole going into hibernation mode or whatever, you know, the development of it not going any particular way. It's not the end of the world. You know, obviously it would be nice if they came out with new cards and stuff like that, but usually with new cards coming out means they need to do a balance check and, you know, figure all that kind of stuff out. So it's kind of nice that they don't have to really, you don't have to worry about new cards coming out and it totally fucking turning the meta on its head. I would like to see a balance check. If there were going to do anything at all, I would like to see a balance check. But at the end of the day, we can't always get what we want. Rarely do we ever actually get what we want. So, you know, it just kind of goes down to if whether you like the game or not, right? If you like the game, then continue to play the game. If not, then you know, obviously don't do something that you don't like. But one thing that does bother me is when you see people that play the game and they're like, you know, fucking, oh, the game's not even being developed anymore, so blah blah blah. It doesn't matter is something that really bothers me. You know, if the game isn't being developed and shit like that, like, that's all well and good, but that doesn't mean you don't care about it. If you don't care about it, then don't play. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing anyway.
What secrets do you seek?
To oblivion!
Most of the people that bailed probably bailed because they want to play the game. They want to play a game that has a future, quote unquote. It's easier to make money on a game that has a future, for instance. And I understand that.
I smell the stench of the living.
Not a very good siege. unfortunately. Not a horrible one though. That was a good way to end it.
Everything was taken from me. Today, I repay in kind.
That's definitely not bad for 10 mana. I mean, just that last card alone was like a combined 14 mana play, so. Were you there for the 104 swing I did the other day there, Joseph? When I swung... Oh man, I fucking... Sun and Shadow swings for 104 against my opponent. I think he might have been there for that. That was like right. I started a stream one night and then I literally hit that, and it was like the first like 2 or 3 people that were in the stream ended up getting to see it, and I don't think anybody else did. But it was definitely definitely a highlight of my TESL career, I guess, if you will.
Mother some flowers. Pretty flowers.
So the siege went like this, actually. I'll explain it to you. The siege went like this. I basically got to... The first creature that came out was Maroki. And then I had Maroki on the board, rather. Creature that came out was some random creature, doesn't really matter. And I got a weapon, and I was like, am I going to use the weapon? No, I probably shouldn't add the weapon on, even though, you know, I want to, but, you know, I'm going to end up sacrificing this creature anyway, so let's not do that. So I kept the weapon, and then the next siege, like basically I betrayed, played another siege. I ended up getting Galleon. So I Galleoned my fucking Dawn Fang back into my hand, or back into my deck. The next weapon that comes out was Dawn Fang that I had Galleoned, which is exactly what I hoped for. And then I got the fucking Squish. I was not expecting to get the Squish, but I was so happy that I did. And the siege basically went into the Dawn Fang, and then I squished. So I squished. But before that, I reanimated Maroki twice. So I went from like 2 health or whatever, like 4 HP, to like 24 because I blinked him twice with reanimate, and then I put the sword on him, and then I squished twice, and I destroyed his board, and then I ended up getting some weird shit like Mummify or something like that, and then I mummified like 2 of his creatures. It was crazy. It was nuts. Because I had the Mummify in my hand, right? So I was like, oh, no way, like, what a comeback. Like, this is awesome. It felt sweet. I think I did that on stream, and I was like, no fucking way. I couldn't believe it. It was one of the best comebacks I've ever had. And you saw a pretty good one earlier. But this was probably the best comeback I ever actually did. At least live, anyway.
Well, let's see if we can find something useful.
So that was pretty cool. The whole siege thing, I guess you could say, is a little ironic because I do actually dislike RNG, but that's why I run a specific amount of actions in the deck. because it really lowers my chance of getting screwed. This is going to be a loss, I think. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. We are still in danger. Do not be fooled.
I command death itself. You're not as powerful as you believe.
Well, ain't that some shit?
Time in this world is done.
I still can't believe that I still have this mushroom tower.
We reclaim what was stolen.
The forest will not suffer your presence.
Rude.
A little distraction might prove useful.
Also, a fun combo is using Night to Remember with Drez Renegade on a charge creature like, say, Tazcad, or any other charge creature, or Dark Rebirth on a charge creature after you already swing, gets you an additional attack. But normally you don't see decks that run charge creatures run Dark Rebirth, because Dark Rebirth is inherently like a greedy control card, whereas, you know, charge creatures are more of an aggro type deal. It was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
You cannot hide, mortal.
Okay, this is going to be a good game. I hope, anyway. I hope I get some cards, at least. Yeah, okay, we'll keep that. Our games are usually quite good. I usually beat him, but it's not by very much. Like, the margin of my victories aren't, like, fucking, you know, 30-0 or type deal, you know what I mean? It's usually a pretty close game. But I am definitely up on him as far as wins go. You know, like, versus each other. Also, shout out to Don't Push the River. He's been playing for a long time, and he's actually one of our. He's one of our older members. Actually, he's around 50 something, which is pretty cool. Actually, it's nice to see older people play. Pity that I drew that. That sucks. I assume that everybody's like around my age or a little older, actually, which is kind of funny. Okay, I guess I'm getting to that age where it's like, you know, how old are you? You know, I was talking to Ashera last night actually, and she was like, I thought you were older than 27. I was like, oh fuck, I don't know. I guess I put off that vibe. Maybe I am a little more mature than I give myself credit for sometimes.
Let's do the fish stick.
By the 8th, they will meet their makers.
Careful there, friend.
Sheol take you.
Behold my brilliance. Let's do the fish stick. I hate this crowd. Damn uncomfortable. You've never understood my work.
Watch yourself now.
I see you're in need of my wisdom.
Out upon it.
Khajiit will keep you safe.
So he's probably gonna tome
I will have
this fella here, tome him, trade that, and probably Manic Jack and a Shadow Lane maybe?
Gall and
My paws are quicker than your eyes.
Ah, Discerning Thief.
We draw power from their blood.
by the fires of oblivion.
Gonna need a big fucking siege. I'm gonna need the fucking mushroom tower to survive too. Holy shit. Yeah, no, this is looking like it's going to be a bad one. Unless he trades.
Too slow.
I don't see him trading into that Unday, though. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Who knows?
I have you now.
Yeah, he does not. Tower's guaranteed. So there is no masterwork, otherwise I'd just play the siege. As is. And I'm fucked. Good lord. Holy fuck. Come on, man. Oh, shit.
You fight well.
Like I said, you win some, you lose some. It happens.
Behold, my magnificent monster.
I love playing this game. It's like playing cards. It's basically me playing with the cool decks that I had when I was a kid, like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that, and Pokemon and shit. Like, nobody knew how to play the game, so you never really got to play with anybody. This is like the complete opposite. There's always somebody to play with.
I hope you all enjoyed that discourse as much as I did. Turns out he's a man after my own heart. A lot of what he said really resonated with me in terms of the state of the game, the love of the game, sportsmanship, being competitive but also respectful. Just pretty much a lot of what he said just kind of echoed thoughts or sentiments that I'd felt for the game. And it was great to hear them from a really high-level player, as well as get to see his approach to the game. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Also, hearing the possible allusion to a tournament coming up, I think he said at the end of December, around that time frame. No dates are set. I don't have any other information other than that, but I will provide in the Discord and on the channel description anything I can to promote it when there's any information out there in terms of registration, who can play, those kinds of things. I don't know any of the details, but hopefully that's coming up. I am also trying to get another tournament out for you all. Hopefully it won't coincide with his. It'll either be before or well after. There won't be any overlap there, but just trying to get something set up. Hopefully we can pull that off. But anyway, that's for a future time. I just want to thank you, Andy, so much for your patience and for doing this. He actually had to do this twice because the first time I did it, I used a wrong audio source, and so you could hear me typing away in the keys. It really made the audio very, very clunky and everything. It was still usable, but Andy said, hey, I want you to be happy with the video. I'm more than happy to answer all the questions again. So we really did. We had the entire conversation pretty much in a different order and more organically the second time. Andy, thank you again so much for sharing. Folks, thank you again for watching, and until next time, keep playing.